Welcome to class, everyone. I'm absolutely thrilled to have you here for today's explainer. We're diving straight into a masterclass on something that literally runs our entire modern digital world: cloud computing. And hey, if you've ever felt completely overwhelmed by all the technical jargon out there, don't worry about it. We're going to strip all of that away today. We are breaking this down from the ground up so you'll leave here with a crystal clear understanding of what the cloud actually is, how it works, and why it's an absolute game changer. Let's get right into it. So I want to start by shifting our mindset right out of the gate with a pretty fundamental question. Why buy computers when you can just rent them? Think about it. For decades, if a business wanted to launch a website or build an app, they had to go out and physically buy these massive, super expensive servers. They had to find a secure room for them, pay the crazy electricity bills, keep them cool, the whole shebang. It was a massive barrier to entry. But what if you could just borrow all that computing power exactly when you need it? Well, that concept of renting brings us right to our baseline definition. Cloud computing is, quite simply, the on-demand delivery of IT resources. We're talking things like servers, storage space, and databases, all delivered over the internet with pay-as-you-go pricing. Rather than owning and sweating over physical data centers, you're just accessing tech services from providers like Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, or Microsoft Azure. And the best part, this totally democratizes computing. Whether you're an absolute beginner or a massive global enterprise, you get access to the exact same global infrastructure as the biggest tech giants. Now, the really crucial point here is the massive financial paradigm shift this creates. On one hand, we have capital expenditure, or CapEx. This is the old school way. It's kind of like buying a really expensive car that just sits in your driveway gathering dust 90% of the time. On the other hand, we have operating expenditure, or OpEx. This is the cloud way. It's like taking a rideshare. You literally only pay for the exact distance you travel, just like your monthly water or electric bill. So if your app suddenly goes viral, you can spin up hundreds of servers in minutes to handle the spike and then just shut them right back down when traffic drops. You're never wasting money on idle infrastructure. Okay, so we know we're renting now. But here's the next question. How much control do we actually want to manage? Because just like renting real estate, renting cloud services comes in completely different levels of involvement. Do you want to build the whole place yourself from the ground up? Or do you just want to walk in, drop your bags, and have everything handled for you? When we rent these services, they basically come in 3 standard models. Let's walk through this hierarchy real quick. At the foundational level, we have IaaS, or Infrastructure as a Service. This gives you the raw virtual resources. Think of IaaS like renting an empty plot of land. The provider handles the physical dirt, the hardware, but you've got to build the house, choose the operating system, and set up your own apps. Next up is PaaS, Platform as a Service. This one is like renting a newly built house. The provider manages the hardware and the operating system. You just bring your furniture, meaning your applications and your code. And finally, SaaS, Software as a Service. This is like checking into a fully serviced luxury hotel. The provider completely manages the entire stack end to end. You literally just show up and use it. To make this even clearer, let's look at some everyday examples you've probably heard of. For IaaS, where you're getting those raw building blocks, we have services like Amazon EC2 or Google Compute Engine. Now, if you're a developer using PaaS, you might use something like Google App Engine or Azure App Services, so you can just write and deploy your code without stressing over server maintenance. And for SaaS, honestly, you already use this every single day. Google Workspace, Salesforce, Dropbox, these are all fully completed, ready-to-use software apps that you just access right over the internet. This brings us to a really pivotal moment in our masterclass. Every single organization faces a critical balancing act. As this quote perfectly sums up, the trade-off between cost, compliance, and security is one of the most critical decisions an organization faces. We know how the cloud is delivered, sure, but where does all this rented data actually live? And how do organizations balance wanting super low costs with the absolutely strict demands of security and compliance? Well, that leads us directly into deployment strategies. Essentially, we have the public cloud and the private cloud. The public cloud is owned by third-party providers. You're actually sharing the underlying virtualized hardware with other organizations. Now, because it's shared, it offers incredibly low upfront costs and practically infinite scale. It's basically a dream come true for an agile, fast-moving startup. But what if you're a highly regulated bank? Yeah, sharing servers might not cut it. You might need a private cloud. This means dedicated hardware used exclusively by your organization, and it's often hosted in your very own physical data center. It does require high upfront costs, but it gives you maximum physical control, total isolation, and strict compliance. But listen, what if you don't want to make that hard choice?
What if you genuinely want the best of both worlds? Enter the hybrid cloud. This strategy specifically combines different types of environments, public cloud, private cloud, and on-premises infrastructure into one seamless integrated IT ecosystem. Imagine a major hospital. They might use a highly secure on-premises private cloud to store extremely sensitive patient records. But at the exact same time, they use a flexible public cloud to run their customer-facing mobile appointment app. It really is the perfect compromise.
All right, we need to address the elephant in the room here, security. A lot of people think that by moving to the cloud, you can just hand over all your security worries to the provider and call it a day. Nope. Not quite. Security in the cloud operates on what we call a shared responsibility model. Think of it kind of like renting an apartment. The landlord, which is the cloud provider, secures the building's main entrance and sets up the security cameras. They're securing the physical servers. But you, as the tenant, you are entirely responsible for locking your own front door and securing your valuables inside. That means your applications, your workloads, and your actual data. It is very much a partnership, and you absolutely still have to lock your own digital doors.
Okay, so we've got our secure environment set up, but let's pause for a second and consider a total nightmare scenario. What happens if your single cloud provider has a massive regional outage? Or what if they just wake up one day and decide to double their prices overnight? If all of your digital infrastructure is locked into just one vendor, you are completely at their mercy. And honestly, that's a massive vulnerability for any modern business.
So, how do we mitigate that risk? The answer is a multi-cloud strategy. Now, don't confuse this with hybrid cloud. Hybrid mixes infrastructure types, but multi-cloud is all about using services from more than one cloud provider. You might distribute your workloads across AWS, Google Cloud, and Microsoft Azure all at the same time. This brilliant move prevents vendor lock-in and dramatically improves your redundancy. Because if one provider goes down, no big deal. Your business keeps humming along on another. Plus, it lets your engineering teams cherry-pick the absolute best, most specialized tools from different vendors.
Now, operating across multiple different cloud providers sounds incredibly complicated, right? Well, that is exactly where enabling technology steps in to save the day. Modern hybrid and multi-cloud ecosystems rely heavily on open-source container orchestration platforms. Just think of containers as standardized shipping boxes for your software. And the really big name you need to know here is Kubernetes. Think of Kubernetes as the master dock worker that automates and manages moving those boxes around. It ensures everything runs smoothly and consistently, whether that box is sitting on an AWS server, a Google server, or tucked away in your own private data center. So, we have successfully architected an incredibly agile, resilient, and secure cloud environment. Go us. But wait. Remember how we talked about how amazingly easy it is to spin up servers in minutes? Well, that ease of use actually comes with a bit of a trap. Let me ask you, how on earth do we make sure we aren't quietly wasting an absolute fortune on resources we simply forgot to turn off? The solution to preventing that silent, massive waste of money is FinOps. That's short for financial operations. But listen, it is not just some boring cost-cutting accounting tool. It's an operational framework. And more importantly, it's a massive cultural practice. Back in the old days, finance teams spent months agonizing over and approving server purchases. Today, an engineer could accidentally spin up a $5,000 a month server before they've even finished their morning coffee. FinOps brings engineering, finance, and business teams together to create real financial accountability. It makes sure that every single dollar spent in the cloud is directly maximizing business value. And this all builds into a continuous three-phase life cycle. The first phase is inform. This is all about gaining absolute visibility into exactly who is spending what and forecasting your future costs. The second phase is optimize, and honestly, this is where the magic happens. You identify those lazy, underutilized virtual machines, and you right-size them, basically scaling them down to eliminate that silent waste we talked about. You also lock in rate discounts here. Finally, we have Operate. This is where you set strict governance policies and track your metrics to make sure all this amazing efficiency actually becomes a permanent habit. Now, implementing FinOps doesn't just happen overnight. Organizations go through what we call a maturity progression: crawl, walk, run. In the crawl phase, you're really just trying to get a handle on things, manually checking spreadsheets, maybe handling a few basic alerts. As you walk, you start to establish clear KPIs and get different teams aligned with each other. But by the time you reach the run phase, it's a whole different ballgame. You are utilizing highly automated machine learning recommender tools that dynamically scale and right-size your resources in real time, literally without any human intervention at all. Okay, class, let's take a collective breath here. We've got our deployment model sorted out, our multi-cloud architecture is humming perfectly, and our costs are tightly managed through FinOps. We are fully modernized. But as we all know, technology never just stands still. So what is the next frontier for the cloud? Where's all of this actually heading?
Well, the horizon is incredibly exciting. First up, we have edge computing. This is all about pushing processing power out of centralized data centers and moving it much closer to the user to minimize latency. You know that super annoying delay you get right before a video starts loading? Next is serverless computing, where developers can just run their code without provisioning or managing any underlying servers whatsoever. It's wild. We're also seeing a massive push for the green cloud, utilizing sustainable, renewable energy solutions to finally reduce the carbon footprint of these giant data centers. And finally, agentic AI and automation, where the cloud literally manages its own security, efficiency, and optimization automatically.
We have covered a tremendous amount of ground in this explainer today, starting from the basic idea of renting IT resources all the way up to deploying open-source orchestrators and machine learning FinOps. The cloud is no longer just a fancy place to store your files. It is the fundamental engine driving global innovation. As this technology evolves from simply renting servers to commanding agentic AI, the only question left for you is this. Will you be the one driving this change, or are you just going to rent space in someone else's future? Thank you so much for joining me for this masterclass. And hey, keep exploring.